Okay.
Thank you.
I think Paul, please.
Paul, please. First of all, thanks for being here. I'm going to speak English, okay? Well, it's to me the last question. I'm here.
Okay, there we are.
Okay. So, what is your guess about this border adjustment tax? Would it be put in place?
Okay.
In your opinion?
My guess is it's not going to happen. The border adjustment tax. Let's say a little too much here, but there's a real case for it, and then there's a fake case for it. The real case is there's a pretty good case that says that the corporate tax system the United States has is really problematic. Creates perverse incentives, creates an incentive for companies to leverage themselves too much, creates an incentive to launder profits so they don't pop up in the United States, they pop up in Ireland or some other low tax jurisdiction. And that's a good critique. And the destination-based cash flow tax would solve that by not even trying to estimate corporate profits. It says you get taxed on your sales, except that there are certain things you can deduct from it, which include the cost of imported inputs, include the cost of labor and so on. And in some ways, it would be a much cleaner tax system. That's the real case for it. Nobody understands that case. Then there's the mistaken case, which is people say, well, look at everybody else but the United States has a value-added tax. And value-added tax has a tax on imports and doesn't tax exports. So it's a combination of tariff and subsidy, and therefore it gives them a competitive advantage, which is all wrong. A value-added tax is a sales tax. And of course, you levy the sales tax on imported inputs, and you don't levy the sales tax on stuff that is sold outside the country. So it's a complete misunderstanding. But a lot of the people who are advocating this border tax adjustment think it's because of the competitive advantage. Now, what happens is that because people have this misconception, that's the selling point, but it also raises tremendous amounts of opposition. Retailers say, well, we sell a lot of imported goods, we don't want to see that. Manufacturers who are part of a complex international supply chain say, we have a lot of imported inputs, we don't want to pay that. Now, the best estimates say that, in fact, if we put this on, the dollar would rise and would pretty much offset the border tax, although there's some controversy on that, but that's a complicated argument. They don't trust it, or they don't believe it, or they don't understand it. So it's all very, it's a much harder sell than you might have thought. And when you, I don't want to say this. If you're talking about a drastic reform of the tax system, and the people who are proposing it cannot coherently explain what it is they're doing, which has been very much the case here. People, there are workshops being held by the Speaker of the House where he explains it. Everybody comes out saying, I didn't understand what he said, partly because I don't think he understands what he says. And you have major interest groups that are highly against it. I just don't, it seems unlikely that this is going to happen. So I think this is probably a false alarm, that is just, it's hard to see this actually going through. The odds of it passing the U.S. Congress seem fairly low. I'm not a vote counter, but no, I think this one is just probably just not going to happen. And actually, and the other thing is, if they figure out that one of the main purposes is to prevent corporations from avoiding taxes, I think if the current majority in the U.S. Congress realizes that that's what it does, they would be against it, because they're all for tax avoidance. So so I just don't think. I think that this is a lot of smoke and probably not much fire in the end.
Yep.
Doctor.